Happy New Year. Yes, it's a brand new year, and we welcome you again to our healing journey, learning journey support group. And we say, why is it two names? Well, it's under the healing journey, counseling, and consulting. But then again, it's a learning journey because you're learning along this journey that God is taking us to. So, again, we welcome you and we say, Happy New Year. Welcome, Lee.
Welcome, welcome. Well, thank you, Lynn. I appreciate that. And Happy New Year to all of you that are out there in Facebook land. We appreciate all of the support that you've given us over last year in every way that you possibly can. We just love you for it and we thank God for it. And Lynn, as you said, two names. Sometimes, we talk about those things, learning journey, healing journey, and stuff. And we do the same thing with caregivers and loved ones,
Yes.
two different words, but kind of really meaning the same thing. So understandable, understandable.
Yes. Yes, it
What are
is.
we
'Cause,
going to talk about tonight?
you know what? I want to really touch on the mental health piece. And I want to take you back as I go back. And I don't have to go too far back because I went during the holidays to see my son. And
Hmm.
there were some feelings I had, but I want to go into the mental health piece of really what we're supporting you on. And we're supporting you on this mental health journey that you're on.
That's
And, really, if you look at it, um, research indicates that children of incarcerated parents face formidable cognitive and health related challenges throughout their development. And I want you to
yes.
realize that. A lot of times we look at it where we are, but we have to
Hmm.
don't not we can't forget about the children. So if you think about
That's
it,
right.
incarceration is a traumatizing experience for family members and also the children. We can't
That's
forget
right.
about what the children go through. Did you know, Lee,
Hmm.
that over 6 million adults in the US have a loved one behind bars? But many of them
Yes.
don't talk about it or look for help because they're ashamed. And I want to stop right there for a moment. I was so ashamed. I It was hard for me to show my face. So I can just imagine and empathize with a parent who's going through. From standing on that line to get in the prison
Mm.
or the jail to see your child, you're talking with other parents. And it's something sometimes if there's a newcomer and you ask, well, how much time does your child have? Or how much time does your husband have? How much time does your loved one have? And sometimes you're so ashamed because some people just don't talk about it. Well, we're here to talk about it. It's okay. It's okay to get it up
Yes.
and out. And I remember that.
Yeah.
Lee, do you remember that? Just feeling that, uh, just too ashamed to talk about it.
I felt it was such a busyness during that time. But like you say, standing on that line to long lines where I was, waiting to go in and just thinking through your head, Lord, I'm in a place that I never thought I would be. And conversating with other people, like you said, to just making friendly conversation to get past the anxiety and the stress that you were
Yeah.
going through at that time. How much time does your child have, or one have, and talking that, and being in the courtroom,
Yes. Yes.
stressful time, sitting there, and the waiting and the waiting. Yeah, those are some difficult times and stuff. And yes, they do play some mental on you and stuff. And sometimes you're not
They do.
aware of it because you're going through what you're going through. So you're not aware that you're in a difficult, a bad, mentally or so.
That's right. And really what you want to, if you look at it from this standpoint, the families of people in prison are really sometimes called the hidden victims. We are the hidden victims,
Yes,
like true
yes,
crime victims. We didn't ask for these circumstances, but
right.
but while crime victim, we're going to support you through it. Family members they may go through unheard instances, and members seem to struggle with disenfranchised grief. As we talked over the
Mhm.
holidays, how do you handle the grief of your loved one not
Yeah.
being there? And it's
Yeah.
really devastating for families. It's traumatizing, so traumatizing to lose someone unexpectedly. Now this person is behind bars, or they're sitting waiting for um they're sitting waiting for their hearing, or they're sitting there waiting for their
Mhm.
trial. And you know what, there's a stigma attached to that, you know
It's true.
and instead of support, you're stigmatized, you're talked about. So yes, you formulate some shame, and it's really, really hard, and many don't talk about it or seek support. So that was part of our reason for this support group. I mean, you think about the trauma. You may have witnessed the arrest, anticipation, as we said, of the hearing or the court hearings, uprooting children from their homes and schools. If mom is incarcerated, then the child is uprooted. They have to go live with someone. That is hard for them. It's
Yes.
also traumatizing, very traumatizing. So the mental health aspects are very, very hard. And let's look at, single parents. It could be a single father. There are also fathers who are awarded custody. And if something happens to them, then it's the same thing. They're uprooted from their father. And that father is that provider. And then they're placed maybe with a grandmother or an aunt or somebody
Mhm.
of that nature. That is very, very hard and traumatizing for that child. This type of grief can also be intense and have lasting effects. Lee, um,
Yes.
what would you have done if your son would have had a child at that time, and he was the sole provider and had a custody? What would you have done as a grandmother?
Well, just trying to perhaps talk to the child, my grandchild, and hope that she would understand what I was trying to say to her in reference to explaining where her father was or why he was there or so. And I also think in terms of the children being in school or the brother or sister, little one being in school, because I'm thinking right now in terms of bullying for other reasons or so. And this lends right into that bullying aspect of it also,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
other kids sometimes are not nice, so to speak. And once they know that perhaps you have a parent or sister or brother that's incarcerated, then they taunt and tease you about that too, because they're children, and this is what they do. So the most I could do is try to explain, talk to them. Um, if allowed, take them to see the parent or, my son or so, if it's allowed, if they wanted to and stuff. Sometimes they want to, and sometimes they don't want to go, and they can't talk about or explain why they don't want to. But I wouldn't force that on them if they didn't want to do that or so. And just try to keep showing them some love until the one is home,
Yes.
and hope
When
the
I was
other family
look
do the same. I'm sorry, Lynn.
exactly. No, I'm sorry. I thought you were finished. I'm sorry. I was looking at some statistics here, and you can look at the statistics yourself and look them up, and it will do something to you when you see that half of the people in prison are parents to minors, leaving 1.25 million kids struggling to cope. Did you know that when that happens, that we altogether, parents in state prisons, look, think the number of people in state prisons almost exactly mirror the number of impacted minor children. What does that tell you? That tells you
Mm,
that yes, the children need counseling. They need help. They need support groups and things, just like the parents do. And sometimes, we focus on the parents and but we forget sometimes about the children. Yes, children are resilient, but you know what? Sometimes it will manifest later in their behavior, outbursts, anger, and things of that nature. So let's not forget about the children. It is just devastating when you look at some of the statistics, and we want to bring this to your attention the first of the year. Florida has the third largest prison population in the United States, with over
That's right.
87,000 in state prison. Thousands more are incarcerated in Florida jails. Florida's incarceration rate of 662 inmates per 100,000 adult residents is substantially higher than the national average. It's astounding. And it is something, how can that be avoided? Well, we talk about restorative practices, which we didn't know about. And part of our support group and our mission is to educate as well as inform and support you. We support you through mental health, but we also want to educate you. The gap between incarceration rates for Black and white people has narrowed in recent years. That's good. But then when we look at the women, I mean, how many women are locked up in the United States? In local jails, it's 76,000, and in state prisons, it's 72,000. I mean, it's the numbers are astounding, So that is one thing that we like to keep and look at. When you look at incarcerated parents, often grew up in struggling households themselves. So, a child of an incarcerated parent may also later be incarcerated because, they grew up in an environment, maybe with a grandmother or an aunt, a relative, or a step parent. And this is serious. This is serious. How can we reduce those rates? How can we support the children? How can we support these parents and these caregivers slash loved ones through this journey? It is a journey. You
Mhm.
think about a grandmother who is ready to now live, and her loved one has been incarcerated, and she doesn't want them to go into the system, into foster care. So she's going to say, I'm going to take the kids. Well, she could have some health ailments, and this is hardship for her. Where does she go? What does she do? And what are the resources out there for her? And this is what is important, you know, among people who are incarcerated. About 1 in 4 have a history of depression. 1 in 4 have a history of bipolar and disorder, and about 1 in 10 have a history of schizophrenia. So those are all genetic uh, disorders. So you think about it, you know, if you look at that, the mental health that is inside and it's genetic, that means that that parent or that loved one, it doesn't have to be, it could come down the bloodline somewhere, but that person is left with a mental illness to raise a child. So, it's just really hard when you look at the statistics and you look at the cognitive and health related challenges that are there, and it's something. So, it's we look at the hidden victims. We also look at the hidden victims because we look at it from a standpoint of financially, and who really pays the true cost of incarceration of families. Who really pays it? And we it brings light to many other financial consequences for families of those in prison, because the financial consequences are so hard. I know when I put my key in there, and I might put $30 on there, and I go in and we sit down, I'll get whatever he wants to eat. I know when I come out of there, I might have $3 left on that key because of the fact that you're paying triple, double, and triple the price of what it's really worth. And what happens,
That's right.
they have outside vending companies that come in, but the prices are so high. So you think about these parents struggling. More than 1 in 3 families go into debt due to the high cost of prison phone calls and visitation. Then you look at families often pay over 13,000 in court costs. And that is really a good price because if you look at the criminal law today, a lot of times they will require 15,000, and that's at the low point, retainer, just to look at that case. And where's a parent to get that? So it's a struggle. You're not only struggling with the grief and the trauma, the depression and the anxiety, but you are also suffering with the financial woes that you're going through. So it's really a struggle, for the family as well. And that's why we tried to bring you, the families on as well. How did the grandmother deal with it? How do the friends deal with it? Think about the friends that you have. When you go through, your true friends, and we're talking about ride or die friends, they're going to go through it with you. The ride or die. Now, the other ones, they don't have time. They don't have time. They will leave you because it's just too much for them. They get tired of you complaining or crying or being depressed, but you never know until you go through. Lee, can you attest to that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And one other thing that I remember, people think and feel that because you're incarcerated, oh, well, the state gives them this and they give them that and stuff. So they really shouldn't need for this, that, or the other. Found out that if you have a certain amount in your, and it varies depending on the states and the jail or whatever and stuff. But if you have a certain amount in there, they won't give you those to buy them. And it's
Mm-hmm.
a small
Mm-hmm.
amount most of the time. If you have that in there, then you're responsible for buying those things for yourself. So
Yeah.
nothing there, then of course they'll give you those things. But if you got a little bit of something in there that you were blessed enough that your family and friends would put in your commissary, depending on what it is, you might have to pay for your own supplies and things.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes. And
that's another
there
way that
is,
the family.
yes. Lee, I keep cutting you off. And again, I apologize because you took a pause and that was my way in there. So I just, I apologize, Lee. I apologize.
Well, look, I know you and I love you, so it's okay because most of the
Thank
time
you.
we're saying some of the same things. So
Yes.
if you're saying it, it's something that I'm thinking, so I let you go right in with that or so. So
Yeah.
it's all good. And the mental piece of it, I know, is the piece that you're very, very familiar with because this is something that you do every day.
Yeah.
So, and this is so very important that we talk about this because there's so many people out there, as you said, that are hurting or feeling a certain way in reference to their loved one being jailed or incarcerated or so. Well, it's always good to talk about these things. And we've talked about a number of different things along the way. And yes, this piece is important too that we need to talk about because this part of it, like you say, the whole family's affected by it. That
Yes.
one or two are incarcerated, but it affects the whole pie of the
Whole
family.
thing. Yes, it does. And it's so true. Trauma therapy can really help reframe the experience, reestablish emotions, and identify healthy ways to cope. And trauma therapy is something, if you can't get that thought out of your mind. We want to rewire that brain around that traumatic event. And there are many therapy resources are online, available online and locally. And that is very important
Mhm.
that you seek out. If you're still suffering and you can't get that vision out, or you have intrusive thoughts and nightmares and things of that nature, um, it's a great idea to check in with your mental health. So, what the trauma therapy does, it helps you reframe the trauma narrative. Okay, this is what happened. And what we do, we use a lot of exposure therapy. A lot of times we're going to expose you to the same stimuli that caused you that trauma. But every time you talk about it, it's going to get easier and it will not affect you the way that it did. We're going to reframe that and we are rewiring that trauma at the same time, the brain to, look at it differently. Also, trauma therapy reduces the stronghold of haunting and frightening memories, as we said, uh, intrusive thoughts and things of that nature. It will also bring a sense of relief by giving a name to the emotional anguish. It reduces the consequences from prolonged adverse exposure. How long are you going to let that exposure bother you? Sometimes I still think about it, but it doesn't bother me like it did before because I've been exposed to it and I have rewired that or reframed around it. And that is the most important thing with that trauma. Reframe it. And you can do that in trauma therapy. Also, um, trauma therapy helps you identify triggers and enhances self-regulation of emotions. We got to regulate our emotions because the trauma may cause us to, you know, act out in anger, our behavior changes and things of that nature. So this way it will help you. Also, trauma therapy helps you reduce the effects of continuous symptoms of shaking, you're hyper vigilant, somebody touches you, and all of those things. That's what trauma therapy does. And it helps you implement coping strategies to reduce the stress related symptoms. Trauma can cause you stress. And the stress is not good because the stress releases the cortisol, and the cortisol is not good for the body. And so we want to make sure that we, are definitely doing that. There are a number of things that trauma therapy can do, and it can help clients find a silver lining and identify their personal strengths. Your personal strengths are going to help you get over those weaknesses. So eventually we can turn the weaknesses into strengths. And this is a new year. So we're going to look at things differently. 24 is a brand new year. So let's have the mindset no more in 24. We are changing things for 24. And Lee and I were talking about making goals, but let's do our goals differently. If you can do one goal per month, maybe for the rest of January, this is my goal. I'm going to make this month a month of self care. Maybe the goal for February is I'm going to get into trauma therapy. Things of that nature. Maybe the goal for March may be no more depression. I'm going to pick myself up. I'm going to brush myself off. I'm not going to be ashamed. I am going to get up and help someone else through this. These are many goals that you can make, 30-day goals. You would be surprised how much they would help you get past this situation. This is a new year, new possibilities, new challenges. We can't bring the old into the new. We have to think about it differently. Just as trauma rewires and reframes, let's reframe our year to positives. Let's change the negative into a positive this year. Let's think on these things of how can I be a better person? How can I help my loved one? How can I support another person who's going through? How can I reach out and help these groups that are trying to help the children, trying to help the loved ones of the incarcerated? That's what it's all about. Give and take, give and take. As you give, somebody's going to give to you. Give and it shall be given unto you. And that's what our message is. We support you. What can we do to help you get through this? How can we make it better for you? What support do you need? It is so important for us to know how can we help you? Maybe our experiences might be a light to your path. That might help you. And at times like this, we need that lamp. We do. We need God to order our footsteps because sometimes we get so distraught and depressed, and it's hard. So remember, depression starts from that negative emotion. So we need to turn that one negative emotion into a positive with three letters: but, B U T. My loved one is incarcerated, but they will be coming out. My loved one is incarcerated and I feel ashamed, but I'm going to turn this whole thing around. It's reframing things. It's how you view it and how you look at the situation. Lee, do you have any ideas on things that you did or things that loved ones can do? Just like we heard about the daughter whose father was going to prison, and she says now she's going to be a lawyer. Instead of her being depressed, she was motivated. I'm going to be a lawyer so I can turn and help in the criminal justice system. Can you think of any positives that you can think of that you had to use to turn the negative into a positive?
Well, one thing that's coming to my mind or so, as you spoke in reference to the but is, and that's my little pup that's barking over there in the background. But I always kept in the back of my mind that I had to trust God in the even though. So even though my son was incarcerated, I had to still function, move on, and be there for him. Still had to go to work, still had to pay rent, to do all these things. So I had to trust God in the even though. So that's one thing that I kept at the top, the back, the side, trusting God in the
Yes.
even though.
Yes. I like that. And we talked about being hopeful. Family and social support is crucial to improved outcomes. When people come to me for depression, do you have any social support? Because at times you have to pull on your social support, and that is crucial to you maintaining. And remember, you always need to have that balance, and it's really hard to get that balance when you're depressed. Also, hopeful, non-judgment conversations can occur and help you through the process. This is a safe environment right here. We're non judgmental. You wouldn't look at us and know what we've been through. But it's by the grace of God that we didn't break because we were right there on the edge. But right there, as we were falling off that cliff, the wings of God lifted us up. And we depended on our social supports, we depended on that family. And that's what helped us. That's why we're able to be here and outpour to you. I want to read some of these comments here. And it says, some systems are designed to mask available supports for students, or they refuse to address root causes of disruptive behaviors. Also, children of color may not even gain access to those services depending on who is responsible for this resource. Exactly. Exactly. But there are so many social supports out there that people can, get in touch with. How much community outreach is available? How much funding has the community been allotted? So there are several groups out there. There's one in Tampa, and you can use Google University for everything else. Google these social supports. Community outreach. Your churches have community outreach. Most of your churches do have the jail and the prison ministries that go and support your loved ones. They do have certain groups that come to the jails and the prisons. You can look on the community boards at the jails and you will see different programs that they have that support the jails. You know what? Also, in the community, if you Google social justice, You will find so many groups out there. Lee and I were like, wow, we didn't know they had this group and that group. And that came from Google University. And I will try to get a list together and post it right here on um our page that will help you and let you know some groups that are out there. But in the meantime, like I said, the church groups, find out which ones have jail and prison ministries. Very resourceful and can help you. Okay. Who is included in the mental health resources in the let's see. Who is including mental health resources in the budget, the operating active budget for students who need mental health support? Well, they also have mental health at school. So the child can talk to the counselor. If you're a loved one taking care of that child, it is very good for you to go to the school, have a conversation with that counselor. And the counselor will also refer you to an outside counseling agency. I have been referred from schools before for people suffering. Let the counselor know, hey, this child just witnessed this and has been traumatized, or has been picked up, and their whole life has changed based on the incarceration of their parent. So that's a good idea to do that. um, there's another, trauma therapy is so important. I am so glad that you covered that tonight. We covered trauma therapy before, and trauma is so important. We all have witnessed some type of trauma, and we don't realize that it is trauma. So it is very, very important to make sure that you know um that you do get some type of therapy. If you notice something's not right, if you're thinking you can't sleep, your eating is off and everything, you have these nightmares, you wake up every night in a cold sweat, you can't get back to sleep, or you wake up crying, then you know what? It's time. Don't go through it another month. Make that your monthly goal. I am going to get therapy this month. And it's so important that you do that.
It
So
is.
we are here to support you. We thank you for allowing us to come into your space. We thank you for allowing us to be transparent, because you're not walking alone. We're walking with you on this journey. We didn't ask for it, but we've been placed on this journey. How we get to the next phase of the journey depends on you. We're here to help you. Let us know what your struggles are so we can help you. I will get some resources together of some community right here in Orlando that can help you. Until we see you again, Lee, do you have any advice, comments?
Well, I understand that you're going to get some information for Orlando, but we do have people that are in other communities.
Okay.
So we need you to reach out to us, text us, any way that you know how to reach us. Reach out to us so that we will know what you need in whatever community that you're in so that we can help you. That's what we're here for
Yes.
in any
Yes.
and we possibly can.
Yeah.
And because there were people there for us, and I'm thankful for that or so. But there's so much out there available that we didn't know about at the time. So we've learned a bit, and we want to help you with the bit that we've learned by passing it on to you. We want to be
Yes.
there for you.
Yes.
Know that we
Exactly.
love you. We want to ease this journey for you in every way that we can.
Yes. So until we see you again in 2 weeks, we're every other Monday. We will see you again. And we thank you again. And remember the motto, no more for 24. Remain hopeful. And that monthly goal. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.